Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the BMW Blog podcast. This is season 2, episode 8. I am once again joined by Nate, and today we have a lot of topics to talk about. There's been a few things that we've attended. We've also tested quite a few recent BMWs, so there is a lot to talk about today, including the new BMW i4. I also tested the X3, the new generation. Also have a chance to take a look at the Vision Neue Klasse SUV, so we're going to talk about that as well. And then I'll talk a little bit more about my long-term test with the BMW iX. So with that being said, let's jump right in. Nate, how are you?
It's been a long time since we've chatted on here.
It's been a while, yeah. It's been quite busy and a lot more things coming up, but we can tease those towards the end of the podcast. Because personally I have a lot of cars coming up that I will test and see. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, let's jump right in, honestly. I know the last few days you've been playing around with the BMW i4 35. So that's the entry level i4 for the world and also for the US. So tell me more about that experience.
Yeah. Well, first off, I always loved the Grand Coupe. And so it was nice to get one on hand for testing. Even though it is considered a base model, it does not feel like a base model car. And that's, kind of what you get from BMW nowadays is there are no base level. It feels like, I had a great time with it. I took it out, did some long road tests, which were fantastic. Thanks to the driver's assist package, thankfully. But yeah, I put it through its paces and had some good times.
So tell me more about the car. Why would somebody pick that one over, let's say, the eDrive 40, for example? Because I know that if you compare it to the M50, it's a huge gap. But what about the E40?
So it's definitely the price point range. I believe it starts at right around $52,000 MSRP. So nice price point. Decent range for 2024. Now it's 252 miles. I did see that in my long test range is almost right on. Very quick charging. It was, even on my home charger, it charged really fast. I think when they dropped it off, it had 20% left to go to full. And it did that in less than 40 minutes or something for my home charger. So fast charge from 10 to 90%, it's supposed to be 32 minutes, I believe they said.
I think it's 10 to 80%, yeah.
10 to 80%, yeah. 32 minutes. So really fast charging. And I saw that on the DC fast charge as well. So it's a great all-round entry-level EV.
Gotcha. Which is interesting because I think they adjusted the charging curve on a lot of their recent BMWs because I think the charging capacity of the car is 175 or 180. I think it's 180.
I think it's 180 for the 35.
So 180 versus 195. So there is a 15 kilowatts basically difference. But I guess the charging curve is quite aggressive probably. So it's giving you the most electrons immediately before it kind of tapers off. And I think that's what they adjusted also in the BMW iX because that's kind of what I noticed as well. So I guess it doesn't make a huge difference compared to the E40. I think the E40 does maybe 30 or 31 minutes or something like that. So it's very, very insignificant. But of course, there are a lot of factors that goes into that. I'm actually writing a story on the iX with that with charging, how you can improve the charging rate. I'm not sure if you know the trick. There is a cool trick that if you set the destination to your charging station, you will actually precondition the car as you get there. So
get it ready to charge.
There, exactly. So the thermals and all of that, they're at the right temperature. So essentially, you will be able to charge a little bit faster. So that's something that I've learned as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm definitely a newbie with the EVs. I'm pretty much your typical average consumer. That's why I thought this would be good for me to do some range tests because I don't know all the tricks for hypermiling and getting it all prepared. I'm just that typical person that goes out, drives, comes home, plugs it in. So it's a good test for average consumers for me to drive an EV.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess that's what we want sometimes. We don't want an expert to consistently review an EV because, of course, I mean, I've had EVs for quite some time, so I consider myself a semi-expert in them. But there's still new things that I discover as well, like the unrestricted fan. I think there is an option in your iDrive. You can take a look at that. A lot of people leave it on automatic because it's making a little bit of a louder noise when charging. But I guess if you don't care about the noise, you should always go on the unrestricted option, and that's going to charge the faster. So there are little, tips and tricks here and there to optimize living with an EV. But honestly, I feel like what we want to get out of this video basically is, should you buy the E35 over the E40? Is it worth paying extra for the E40? And is it enough range, enough power in the car to be a good daily driver and a good entry level EV?
Yeah, and I think so. I think with this current bump in range, as we found out that 2023 had 232 EPA range versus 255. No, 235 versus 252 in the 224. So I think at the 230 range, especially if you're not trying to be eco pro distance, person the whole time, that could drop easily below 200, especially in winter, which could be a little bit difficult. But I think with the newer range, it does become a very good entry point for EV. The 23 and 22 models with that shorter range, I just don't know for the typical consumer. I know there would be a lot of range anxiety with that.
So I guess what we need to find out before we publish the review and all of that is if they really have changed anything in the battery pack. I highly doubt it, honestly. I feel like maybe the EPA procedure has changed a little bit, and that gave the car a better range, because I don't think that BMW really changed the battery packs from one year to the next one. So that's something that we should find out. Maybe just it's always maybe been doing 252, but it was just rated a little bit lower based on whatever cycle they used. Because I think they use different cycles all the time. So I'm not sure exactly how the whole EPA works for EVs.
Yeah, I think so too, because I couldn't find any information on changes between 23 and 24 except for the EPA range. So I'm assuming they just changed the way they do that cycle.
And I promise you, if there would have been an improvement in the battery, BMW would have put it out there in a press release. They would have touted that. They would have definitely made sure that people know that.
Yeah.
So
all I know is I hit almost exactly the EPA. I did. I think it was 254, just over 254 miles versus the EPA's 252. So like I hit it almost right on. Sure. And that wasn't with any hypermiling or anything like that. Just 70 degrees, AC on, cruising with Eco Pro mode and driver's assist.
Got it. So I have the i4E Drive 40 aside from the iXM60, and honestly, I looked at the E35 initially, but the price difference was quite small, especially when it comes to leasing and all of that. And I went with the E40. Based on the amount of driving that I do, I don't think it would have made a huge difference, but I guess it depends where you live. If you live in Chicago, then maybe the extra, 20, 30 miles that I'm getting on the E40 makes a little bit of a difference. But if you live maybe in a place, like West Coast where it's not cold and all of that, and you have a charger at home, I don't think it makes a huge difference. I think the power difference, it's also not that significant, and even the E40 compared to the M50 feels fast enough for daily driving. Of course, if I take the cars, on a drag strip, the M50 will be the faster car. But honestly, I don't feel like with the E40 that I'm missing too much power. Actually, I had someone driving the iX the other day, and he was telling me that, like, oh my god, this car is just too powerful. I'm like, yeah, it's just so jerky because it's really, really powerful. So if you don't know how to drive it, smoothly, it's just going to take off. So I feel like the E40, it's a good compromise when it comes to, or a good balance when it comes to power. And I feel like the E35 could be exactly the same way. I haven't driven one yet, so yeah.
The 35 is great. I thought it had plenty of power. The power delivery is a little different. Like in the 40 and the M50s, it's a little bit more early on set in the throttle, where this one kind of rolls on more like a traditional car. Yeah. So, but as you get to about 35, 40 miles an hour, then it really starts pulling. And I took a few passengers in it, and they were really kind of surprised. So it's not slow by any means, but I mean, in EV standards, yeah, it's a little slow, but it doesn't feel that way at all.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, someone asked me recently, which one do I recommend out of the i4 range? And it's, like to me, it really comes down to price, right? If I can get a good deal on one of these cars, I'll pick that one over the other one because I don't need that much range and I don't need that much power. But then, of course, if money's not an issue and you don't care about that, then the M50 is the one to go for. Honestly, it's all-wheel drive. It's massive. It's fantastic to drive. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. It's their best-selling 4 Series. Probably they haven't really said that, but that's my guess. And it's definitely their best-selling i4 for sure. But it's just nice to have options. Honestly, that's kind of why these cars really are on the market, and that's the beauty of these EVs. You can throw in a smaller battery pack, reduce the power, and essentially same car, just different range, different power.
Yeah, a lot of people don't need that full-on range. They don't want the power. I mean, so it's like they just want that luxury and BMW feel, which these totally have. Like, I was really impressed with how it drove. It was a lot of fun to just daily drive. Like, I really enjoyed it. So, I mean, if it's their best selling 4 Series, it would not surprise me because I don't see a reason not to get an i4 unless you're just nowhere near chargers and home charging is not an option, because the daily driving experience was fantastic with it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So let me talk about the iX since I've mentioned that a little bit. I actually just did I was supposed to do iX M60 versus a Tesla Model Y yesterday, a test. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the last minute, so I had to reschedule it, but I still had a chance to drive it around and shoot some more content. And for the first time, honestly, I've had it for a few months now. For the first time, I started to play around with some features that I don't usually use, like remote parking. So you will see a quick video coming out on Instagram where basically I parked the car next to another one. There's probably about I don't know, it was really close, like 2-3 inches in between the two cars. And I wanted to, and I had to get out of the car through the passenger side. And then I was using my iPhone, basically the app, the My BMW app, to take the car out of the parking spot, basically. So
is it?
It's just
so their remote parking. It's just forward and front. It's just straight.
Yeah, you can actually steer it too.
You can steer it too.
You can steer, brake. You can do a lot of things with that app. Yeah.
So one thing I'm wondering about is they have that amazing reverse assistant feature.
Yeah. So yeah.
Is it a lot like that?
So that's different because I tested that as well. So I filmed that as well. So the reverse assistant, essentially, it's the one that reverses out of the spot, but you can also record the path. So I also recorded a path to show that, it's going to follow the path. See if it's saved. I can click that and it's just going to go park back in that spot. So essentially it has that particular feature, the reverse backup assistant. It also has the lateral parking, so automatic lateral parking. Basically, you can do that as well. So it's got the full package when it comes to parking and all of that. But also additionally the same features that the i5 and the i7 have now with the using the app to move the car, basically, which is quite cool because I was playing around also with bringing the car to me. I was in a different spot. I mean, of course, you got to stay a little bit closer to the car, so you can't be too far. I think it's NFC enabled, so you can't be too far. But it was kind of cool just playing around with that. And there were people in the parking lot looking at me like I was crazy because there was no driver in the car, and they were just looking at that. But it's got so many interesting features, like as far as safety. So you don't have to worry about it. I mean, the car, it's in full control, essentially. If this is an object, it stops. Even if you try to push it past that, it will not go. Basically, it stops. If you see an object in front of it, let's say like parking structure or whatever, then it's just going to stop as well. So a lot of these features are quite cool to have because it's quite safe. And also the lateral parking works really well. I was trying to trick it a few times, but no, it's got so many sensors. It's actually quite useful. I'm surprised I haven't used it until now because I definitely lateral park all the time.
Yeah, I think that with those features, the problem has always been like knowing how to actually end up using that, right? I know with a lot of customers, they're like, yeah, I know I have it, but I can never seem to get it to work quite right, So I haven't used a lot of the parking features recently, but are they still are they more intuitive now in the new OS system? Like, do they pop up a little bit more often, or like
they do?
What's the initiation for that?
You get a couple of pop-ups. You get one in front of the driver behind the steering wheel, and also on the iDrive screen on the right side. So you get a notification immediately. And if you want to activate that, it asks you if you want to park forward or back or backwards also. The system is quite smart because I was playing around in the parking lot with different cars and they were parked, and essentially it just scans the space and the cars and the lanes and everything else. So it's not just lanes, it's essentially scanning the cars, the space between cars. So if it sees that there is enough space, you will attempt to park. If it thinks there is not enough space, you will not even try to do that. So the system is actually quite smart. And I could see myself using it a lot more now that I started to play around with it, because there are a lot of times where by my house I have to park in between cars and it's quite tight. And I sometimes refuse to do that just because, one, it's hard to get out of the car. And I just always drive around trying to find a better parking spot. But now, honestly, I could just let the car park and then just pretty much get out and use the app, or use the app basically to park the car. There's so many options right now that it could be really useful.
Yeah, I mean, and I could even see that. I mean, I don't even live in the city anymore, and I could see it being useful here at the house. I mean, as you know, I got a kid now here in the family, and we got bikes in the garage, and it's like we have a 2-car garage, but we can barely fit the 1 car in there. And sometimes it would just be nice to open up the garage door, back it out, and then just get in the driveway, right, and load it up.
Yeah.
That'd be just a lot easier than trying to open the door halfway and squeeze in. Like, how great would that be to precondition the car because it's electric, open up the garage, back it up into the driveway, and then walk out to a warm, easy to get into car. Like, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's the thing with some of these cars, that there's so many features in there that if you don't start playing around with them, you don't realize how easy they make your life, right? I mean, somebody commented on Instagram about, and that's going to go to the next topic with the X3, when I was showing the emergency braking and all of that, you know, and the iX has it as well, and it does it forwards and backwards as well. And one day I was backing out and I didn't see a car coming, basically because it was a dead spot, so I couldn't really see left and right till I really got out of that spot. But the cameras were able to see that, and he stopped me. He just stopped the car immediately. So some of these features are there to help us, really. I mean, it's, of course, people say more things to break. Doesn't matter, honestly. You know, they're just there to make your life safer and easier as well. So just to end,
exactly.
So just to end with the iX, honestly, it's still one of my favorite cars today. Because I drive a lot more than I drive the i4, definitely a lot more than the 1M. I'm going to be sad when I have to give it back because I got used to an SUV. I haven't had an SUV in a very, very, very long time. I always said that I'm not a fan of big cars. But honestly, living with this car, it's so great, so spacious. You know, it's so comfortable to drive. I'm doing a test right now where I want to show the air suspension going over like speed bumps, and especially in Chicago with the potholes, how smooth it is. It's so smooth. It's unbelievable. That suspension in the car, it's really, really fantastic. I don't know if it's different than the one in the X5 or not, but it's just great. So, and it's also effortless. You know, I got this rear axle steering, which I said it in the past. If you don't know if you don't use it, you'll never know that you actually need it, basically, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really one of those things that it's extremely, extremely useful to have, especially driving in the city.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool features there, and I assume like the smoothness from the being a little bit heavier than an X5, so it's using the shock absorbers more. My question for the iX with you is: has there been anything that you kind of disliked or bugged you about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did a video on that already, like top 5 things that I disliked on the car. And
I'm
not sure if we talked about this.
I must have missed that one. No.
Yeah, but I can give it the brief 411 on it. The seats, they're too short for someone that's my height. So I'm 6'2"-ish, 6'3" almost. There is not enough thigh support, and there is no extender for a thigh support. So
there's no extender.
No, there's no extender. So they're really, really short. And the way that I noticed that immediately was I usually put my phone in between my legs. I don't know why, just a bad habit, and it constantly slides out, honestly. And then so I knew they were too short. And then driving for longer distances, I noticed that it's just too short for my thighs. They're also not sporty enough. I feel like they're too flat. There is not enough side bolster support. I feel like they could be a lot sportier, especially in the iX M6. It should come with some really sporty seats because that's kind of like an tuned M Light car. So that's one thing that I've talked about. Second one, the ergonomics of the cup holders. We love the cup holders in our cars. They're just horrible, and you just even yesterday I was putting a bottle in there. You just kind of have to go around. If you're listening this, you can't really see me showing this, but you can watch that video on YouTube. But essentially, you kind of have to like go from the left side around that floating cubby, and then you place it in there. It's just the ergonomics are just not easy to work with. The same goes for the one of the USB-Cs. Actually, two of them are there. In order to reach them, you kind of have to go from the front. It's just really, really awkward. So I don't know if that was an afterthought, how they set up that whole cubby, floating cubby and all of that, but that's just a small annoyance. What else was on? There were a few more, and they're all tiny, honestly, nothing crazy. Of course, the price of the car was one of them. It's really, really expensive. There is no, on the iXM60, there is really no M in it. I mean, there is really nothing. Just the suspension, it's a bit more tuned up, which some people don't like. It doesn't bother me because I go in comfort mode most of the time.
Yeah.
So I guess but other than that, there's really no M in it. It's just the badge on it and the suspension. And that was that. Of course, the frunk, it's one of those things. Sometimes I feel like I need it, sometimes I don't. But I guess for a car of that size, people expect it to have a frunk just to have some extra space, just in case. And I guess lastly, probably the one thing that I complain about as far as cargo space compared to the X5 and the X7, it doesn't have the roller cover in the back.
Oh, the
essentially
cover back?
The X5, yeah. So essentially that one kind of folds into the floor of the cargo of the boot, basically. So it's just automatic. So it's kind of nice, honestly, because you push one button, it kind of disappears, and you can load up things. With this one, I constantly have to push that cover out, and it's annoying. Then I got to store it somewhere sometimes, and it gets dirty. So my point was like, okay, it's $100 and something thousand car. I mean, how much could have been to just implement that? But I don't know if it's a restriction of the battery pack being in the cargo space. I don't know. Maybe there was an engineering restriction there because the other cars have it. So I don't know, but those
aren't too big though. Those are all small little things. So that's nice to hear.
And even yesterday, when I was exiting the car through the passenger side in order to show that use case with the parking, it's so easy because there is no transmission tunnel. There is so much space at the front. You have a ridiculous amount of space in that car, more than the X5 for sure. And it's just really nicely well constructed inside, thanks to that bespoke platform and all of it. And you can feel when you drive the car that it just drives completely different than, let's say, a conversion car that you would drive. And aside from the looks and all of that, I've talked about this in the past. I feel like it's really the perfect car. The iX name, it's a little bit weird. I guess they should have done a better job trying to name this car something else so people understand it, because a lot of people don't know what the iX is. They don't know in terms of the car what it is. Okay, it's an electric car, okay, but what size is it? So they can't figure out the size because, with the X5, X6, and X7, you kind of know, okay, which one is, smaller, bigger, and a lot bigger, basically. With this one, they don't know where to place it. So I always have to explain that it's in between an X5 and an X7. So from a branding perspective, I feel like it's suffering a little bit because the iX name, it's not that well known, and it's going away anyway. So
yeah, they haven't really promoted it very well, and it's a shame because I've talked to a few different people who've driven them for a while, and everyone's come out with that it's a really good car. And it may not be positioned right or have the best looks, but everyone's been really happy with its day-to-day usability and driving style. So it's kind of a bummer. They didn't fully execute on everything.
I mean, honestly, I would buy this car before the X7 in my case. The X7, of course, has the extra, third row and all of that, but this car is perfect for me. I mean, you can have two large car seats in there, still have plenty of space. You can still travel with a third person in between the car seats if they're not too big. Definitely plenty of cargo space. It drives nice. I don't know. I just love the car. Honestly, it's one of those things that, a lot of people might say that I'm biased, but I'm really not, because I am truly not a fan of big SUVs. Never really been, but the more that I spend time in them, I start to appreciate them, basically. Even the XM, I mean, the XM has got its own faults, basically, but it's nice to have a big car sometimes, it's just nice.
Yeah, we talked about that one last time, and I agree. It's sometimes nice, especially as your family, gets older, and it's just a lot easier, and things change.
I mean, I have 3 cars right now. So I have the i4, I have the 1M, and I have the iX. And honestly, my first thought is always the iX. Every time I fire up the app to see how much range I have, in the iX. If there is not enough range, then I'll take the i4. But usually that's really the iX. It's the first car that I drive, that my wife drives as well. I mean, she also loves it. The kid loves it. I mean, she absolutely loves it. She even did like a short video because she every time she says, can we take the iX? And she's only 4 basically, but she even appreciates that. And I asked her why, and I thought she was gonna say something else, but she likes the fact that it's got like really big windows, so she can see outside. So she loves that compared to the i4. And she always
the
brags about
i4 is kind of high.
Exactly.
Got those high midlines. Yeah.
Exactly. This one's got a really large panoramic, and she's a little spoiled, but yeah, she also loves that car as well. So she's gonna be very sad when I gotta give it back. So I gotta figure out BMW gives me a big car as well now.
Well, maybe one of these new ones coming out that we can shift into next year. You went and tested a couple new X3s.
Yeah, so the X3, I mean, I tested a G45. That's still the Clar platform, because the iX3, which is a completely different platform, we just did a story on that on the website. That's coming out only in late 25, early 26 in the US. So it's going to be a while. But yeah, the X3, basically a brand new generation. It's a product that it's going to come to the US, of course. They're only going to bring the, so far, the entry level 30i and the M50. They haven't confirmed the name, but that's the name, M50. It goes from M40i to an M50. There is no I anymore. I guess they want to simplify the naming convention, so it's starting with this one. No more I. They're saving the I guess, for electric. I don't know. It's a whole mess there, so we'll see how that's going to work out. But
they've never been good with naming, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to fix. I guess with Neue Klasse coming out, they're going to try to fix it, which is nice, because it's time. It's a little bit confusing, but aside from that, yeah. So so went to Miramar. Always a great place to go, because it's a hike to get there. So you got to go through either Paris, or you go through Munich, and then you fly to Marseille, which is nice. Then you hop on a car. You got to drive for at least an hour to get to this location, and then once you get inside there, they take your phones and everything else. You can't really use anything. It's kind of like this very secretive thing. All around, you see BMW prototypes everywhere testing, which is like Candyland for someone like me. Maybe the other journalists don't get so excited, but to me it's like Candyland, because I know the prototypes and it's cool to see them. I even saw an M2CS, and I was right next to it. And they were testing it. Of course, I can't take any photos. It sounded amazing, really, really amazing. And the car that was pushing the car, he was really going at it. So, it was just fantastic. But yeah, so back to the X3. I tested the plug-in hybrid, which I said it's not coming to the US initially, at least. I talked to the SVP that's he's in charge of midsize and luxury class, Nikolai Martin, and he was very upfront. He said that they're seeing a comeback of plug-in hybrids. So the plug-in hybrids are becoming very popular once again, especially in the US. They were in Las Vegas for a huge BMW convention with the dealers, and everybody was telling them that hybrids are starting to sell really, really well, and people are asking for them, and they should consider this. So he gave me the impression that they're going to look once again at the lineup and see if the 30e will come to the US in the future. Probably not the first year. It's always like that. But I guess the Canadians, I never realized the Canadians had the previous generation 30e. The US didn't have it. So it remains to be seen if both markets will eventually get it, or the Canadians will get it first. I think that the 30, it's always been one of those cars on the X3 lineup. They should have been in the US, because it's really good on gas and all of that. It had, I think this one I started at about 82 kilometers range. That's what he showed on the screen, and it's not even a final version.
That's perfect.
Basically, yeah, exactly. So that's 60 miles, maybe.
Yeah,
60 miles.
That's plenty for a day.
Exactly. So that's pretty good. So I feel like that car will sell really well, better than the 30i, honestly. You will have a lot more power. It will be a lot more fun to drive, basically, because of the electric boost a little bit and all of that. So honestly, I'm truly hoping they will reconsider it, because I drove the car. Drives nice. It's your normal daily driver. Don't expect it to be super fun, but it just does the job really, really well. Of course, I couldn't focus too much on the driving experience, because it's still a 1-year-old prototype. So what we focused on was really on the steering, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, because that's the most interesting part of the whole event there. It was really all about chassis and steering, and they were really focused on the steering, because it has a new steering called EPS APA. And essentially, it's a steering, it's belt driven. They explained to me belt driven. It's a newer generation made by Bosch, I think, and it allows them to have a really wide range of applications. So I tested something like to the point where you couldn't really steer at all. You felt like you were driving a truck or a lorry, as they said. Like you couldn't steer. I was going into corners with the M50 and you couldn't steer, honestly. You had to like really work that steer. I mean, like to the point that after a few laps, I was tired. So the point was to show that application. Then I went to the opposite spectrum, and basically, I mean, you would use one finger and you could do like a full rotation. It was so soft and so weird and artificial. You had no idea where the lateral forces were coming from. You had no idea what the car was doing because it was so soft and comfortable. Yeah. So they wanted to show this new system, what it can do, because they're planning on using this in all the future cars, basically. And that's going to help them quite a bit, especially on the M side. And especially on the sporty side of cars, because now they can really have that steering that people expect, a little bit more feedback in it. You can tailor it for that car even more. So I guess that's what they really wanted to emphasize with this one. I'm going to have a chance to drive it once again in the fall in a full production series car. So then I'll focus a lot more on that. But I did like what I saw, especially in the M50, because I did test the sport version of the steering at some point, and it was really, really good. I can't tell how much better than the M40i, for example. I have to drive them back to back, but it felt great for what I was doing on the track. I mean, I was tracking the car, I was spinning the wheels a little bit. It had a limited slip differential also, and with all that power, it had a little bit more power, so I'll talk about that also. But yeah, the steering was just precise, plenty of feedback from the tires. It just felt great. So that was the M50. Once again, one was on the road, the 30, the M50 was testing on the track, basically. And that's why I was testing the chassis and the suspension and the steering as well. The car, it's a little bit bigger in size. I think we did a story on it. I think the specs broke. So they leaked a little bit earlier than that. Just a little bit bigger. I mean, not by much, but you can tell it's a little bit bigger. The shape, it's more of the shape resembles more of an X5 and iX, honestly. So I feel like it's a bit more aerodynamic. I mean, the aerodynamics of the car improved. I think it's 0.27 versus 0.29, whatever it was before. Of course, that's probably because of the efficiency they needed for the car. So that was interesting. Inside, essentially, we've seen spy photos, so there was no surprise for me. It's keeping the iDrive controller, at least for now. I have a feeling that in the future, when they standardize all the cars with the same interior based on Neue Klasse, it might go away. But at least for the next few years, the X3 has the iDrive controller, which is cool. It gets that toggle shifter. I saw an interaction bar in there, typical to what you see right now in the i5 and 5 Series and 7 Series. That's cool. I think we'll see something interesting around that. I can really talk about it because I was under the wraps and I couldn't really remove it. But I think we'll see something interesting with that as well. And other than that, actually there were two steerings, which is interesting. One had the iX steering, exactly identical, flat top and flat bottom.
Okay, steering wheel. Got it.
Steering wheel, sorry. And then the second one was the same steering as in the i5 M60 with only the flat bottom. And I asked the question, are they going to be both available? And they said yes. So I guess the iX steering is going into that one as well. And then you have the option of the sporty one, but I'm not sure if for certain models or not. We'll find out in June. I think by mid-June, we'll know more.
So did the steering, it's different pressures or whatever. Was it also different ratios, like different speeds? So like at faster speeds, was it less movement versus lower?
Couldn't tell, honestly. I mean, we've tested that a little bit. It was just too short to really focus on. We've talked about the angle quite a bit, and they said that they improved the angle of the steering. But honestly, it was just too short to really focus on that. So I can't really tell. But they did say that they did talk up, and I think I mentioned it in the story as well. They did talk quite a bit about the angle of the steering, of that being improved and everything else. So I'm assuming yes. I mean, it's all adaptive because basically it's all based on the speed. So essentially, you'll get better feedback, better steering based on the speed that you're going, and all of that. You already becomes more comfortable if you're cruising in the city or tight spaces and all of that. So I think from that perspective, it's kind of similar to what we have, but there are improvements in that area as well.
Okay, I know that's become a bigger-ish talking point with Cybertrucks, like little that far to be like the full rotation. So
yeah, but it's not like that. I mean, honestly, no, because it's not steered by wire, so it's still not steered by wire. So essentially, you're not going to have that. I haven't really tested one, so I don't know how well that works, but I've seen the videos on the Cybertruck for sure. I guess people to get excited about that. I don't know what the real benefits are in the real world, but yeah, they don't have that one. I don't know if Neue Klasse will have it. It's possible they'll have it. I don't know so yet, but we'll see when that car comes out. That's completely new and everything is new, so maybe they are doing something similar in that.
So and then the other change, they changed from M40 to the M50. Now the M40 was an amazing engine. Are they? What's the powertrain for the M50?
Yeah, so I was trying to dig into that quite a bit, and they know that I know, and they're very careful around me, and they're just very cagey. But I did manage to get something out of it, kind of like I posed the question, stating the facts in that question, and they only said yes, yes, yes. So essentially, it's an upgraded B58. Of course, they're not going to make new engines. I just replied to someone today. They're not going to make new engines. The times are gone. I mean, what we have today, they're just being improved. So this is like the technical upgrade 3, so TU3. That's what I call it. They didn't tell me the specs, but I said it feels like he has more power, and they said yes. And then I said, it feels a little bit different too. I said, yes. And then I said, well, it's likely you've improved some of the turbos, maybe the internals, the mechanicals, because, it's a technical upgrade. You usually do that. They said, yes. So essentially it's not a brand new engine, but a lot of the things, apparently there might be new inside the engine. So I don't know what that means. Essentially maybe cooling, bigger turbos, better turbos. I'm not sure. But it's definitely an improvement over this one, and there's definitely a bit more power. I don't think it's significant more power. Somebody said, well, maybe it has 450. I'm like, no, it doesn't have 450, but I would say it has at least 10, 20 horsepower more, and probably also the fact that it has the mild hybrid system as well, and that probably makes a difference too. But yeah, we'll find out, I guess, by mid-June exactly what the specs are on that. I think
that'll
the
be
European
interesting.
version. Yeah, I think the European version always has a little bit less than the US. So I think we'll get 2 specs on that engine as well. But I'm curious. Yeah, I'm very curious about the B58 because it sounded great. Honestly,
it's such a great engine, dude. That engine's been amazing in everything they put it in. So I'm not surprised that it's just going to be an evolution of that, because that would be my pick for anyone in an X3 if they want that, is the M40, because it's a great balance of power and everyday driving. It just sounds great, performs amazing. It's just a good combo.
With the car being a little bit heavier, I did mention to them, that maybe you need a little bit more power to make up for the weight difference, and they said yes. So the car is a little bit heavier. I can't tell unless I drive the cars back to back. Like there is no way for me to remember how the M40i felt if I don't drive them back to back, like on the same road, on the same, under the same conditions. There is no way for me to tell, does it feel heavier? It feels heavier as a car. I mean, clearly everything has gotten bigger lately, and you can tell that it's got a little bit more room inside. It's more of a grown-up SUV. So every single generation, X3 and X5, they've gone up in size. So it doesn't surprise me, honestly. Multiple reasons, I guess, market demands, also the regulations and all of that. So really no surprise there. But yeah, it's bigger than before for sure. And then we'll find out exactly by how much as far as weight and all of that. But I think we published the leak specs at some point, so they're out there on the website. And the last thing that I tested was the automated braking, emergency braking. They improved the system in the X3. Someone asked me if it's coming standard. I don't know. They haven't communicated that. It might be also market by market, car by car. We'll once again find out more in June. But we did a bunch of testing, honestly. It was quite interesting because we're driving 80 kilometers per hour, and they were just telling me, like, don't look at the road, look somewhere else, accelerate, don't brake, don't worry about the object that's in front of you, don't worry about the car that's in front of you, because there was an actual car at some point as well. Just trust the system, and it worked well. I mean, we tried it at 30, 50, 80 kilometers per hour, the emergency braking. What I liked about the system was not the fact that it brakes hard. I mean, it definitely does. If it's in a critical situation, it will definitely brake really hard. My camera flew out of my hands at some point when I was in the back seat trying to film someone else. But in other situations, essentially it's really, really smooth. Even at 80 kilometers per hour, there was one test that we did where the braking was so smooth because the system anticipated that you're going to crash into the car in front of you. You have no intention of slowing down. Basically, you started to decelerate, basically reduce the power, apply the brakes very, very smoothly. So when you got close to the car in front of you, it was actually very progressive and very smooth, actually braking. So it wasn't really that, yeah, exactly. And then I asked, how is that working if there is a car behind you? And he said, well, that's why the braking was very, very smooth, because the camera that's in the back also looks at what's behind the car. And if you see there is a car that's too close, then they will try to basically simulate that. And there was a car behind us. They were trying to replicate that scenario where they're not going to slam into you because you're braking hard all of a sudden. It was really interesting. I mean, and we've tested different scenarios where basically maybe you're not in the center of the lane. So the car in front, it's center, but you're not. Maybe you're to the right or to the left a little bit. Let's say like 50% case, they were saying. So the system only sees half the car and it will still stop basically. So that was quite interesting. And then the last test was, what if there is enough gap for you to go around the car in front of you at the risk of losing your side mirror? So what the system anticipates is the fact that you're in charge of the car, you're in control, you notice the situation, and you're going around the car because you don't want to slam the brakes, or you don't want to basically hit that car. So you have enough time to react. So if you go past by it, it will actually let you go past by it without braking on its own, and it will definitely take out your side mirror for sure, basically. So we tested that scenario basically, and it was interesting because, yeah, I guess you notice that you need to swerve and go around the car. There is enough space, and the car doesn't try to stop you. Basically, it just lets you go and be in control of the car.
That's crazy.
Really interesting. Yeah, really interesting system. Honestly, initially I was like, yeah, are we really going to test this? I've done it before. But then once we went to these use cases, it was cool. There were some dummies set up on the road as well. Basically a bicyclist, a pedestrian, so it's very good at recognizing objects, not just cars, but also cyclists or pedestrians. So that was cool as well. I mean, those dummies were actually moving, like a whole staging area. It was kind of cool. And then another scenario that was interesting was the fact that you might be turning left or right into incoming traffic, or you want to cross lanes, or you want to turn left onto a street and you're not paying attention. If there is a car coming, from left or right, and the car basically sees that, and if you're trying to turn, it will just stop you basically. And that was one scenario; it stops you immediately. But the second scenario was, what if you're going, perpendicular or 90-degree angle towards another car, and then the car, instead of slamming the brakes, so let's say so you're about to T-bone someone basically, right? And it sees that car, the system, way ahead of time because of all these sensors and lidars that it has. But instead of slamming the brakes, it brakes enough to let the car in front of you pass in front of your windshield, basically, and then you just kind of roll by. So it doesn't do a full stop. It just brakes enough to not to avoid it T-boning someone, and then just lets you roll.
So it's not a full slam. So it's
not a full stop. Yeah, no.
That's interesting.
Very cool. So it slows down to like 1-2 kilometers per hour, maybe just enough to avoid the collision, and then you just kind of roll. So essentially, you're also avoiding someone hitting you from behind in that situation too. Yeah, very interesting. Actually, that was an interesting exercise. I spent a lot of time on that one there because I wanted to see all the use cases, and I filmed all of them. Actually, the video just went live actually today. It's doing it really well in terms of views. So I encourage you to take a look at that because it's a system that it will save lives. I don't know how well it works in all the situations. I don't want to test it in real life because they asked me, have you ever tested this with your iX? Because my iX apparently has the same system. And I said, no, and thankfully not. I never had to really fully test this system.
Those are some cool scenarios, though, that would not expect intervention from driver assistance. So that's interesting. Yeah, let's go watch that video.
Yeah, I gotta watch, man. It's really interesting. Honestly, I cut it a little bit short. I didn't want to show all the use cases because there were so many, but very interesting. Honestly, I will definitely test that again when I get the car because it really, really works. And you can set up dummy things in front of you. It doesn't have to be a hard object in order to test that. So we'll definitely try that. So yeah, so that was the X3. That was quite interesting. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. Okay. We have one more topic, right?
Yeah, we got the Neue class.
Yeah, you tell me first what you think about the car, because I've seen the car live in Portugal. Can you tell me what you think of it?
I really liked it. I think it looks fantastic. Um, I liked it better than just the regular Neue class. I think as the X, the SUV, I guess you would call it. Its proportions look a little better to me. Well, I think it looks really good. I think they've done a really good job. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about the sedan Neue class and now the X, and it's getting buzz. Like there's people that are like, wow, that actually looks really cool. So, and I'm with them. I think it looks
Sure.
really good.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like the feedback on the Vision X was a lot better than on the regular Neue Klasse sedan. I think when that car came out, it was just too much of a departure from the regular 3 Series, and people were like, "Oh my God, what's this?" But yeah, Vision X. Honestly, the reviews that I've seen, they're quite positive. It's an interesting car. The kidneys are getting a little bit of a buzz, but honestly, they're really nice in real life. Maybe I give them a hard time when I saw the car the first time, because I made a joke in the video, with the head of design for BMW. I said, you went from huge grills now to like really these tiny grills on the car. I mean, there is no middle ground for you guys. But I get the idea. They wanted to once again pay homage to the cars of the 60s and 70s, the original Neue
Yep.
Klasse. They wanted the car to have a different identity than the sedan, because we did a video also, like a Photoshop rendering type of demo, where we put horizontal kidneys on the Vision Neue Class X, and it looks nice. Actually, it looks really nice actually with that. But then again, it's just a SUV version of the sedan, so I get it why they wanted to keep the other look with the horizontal kidneys for the sedans, and then give this X identity to all the cars in the lineup, because it's not just the iX3 that gets that. There will be other SUVs that will get a similar design, basically. So, like you said, I love the proportions. I think the proportions, the styling from the side is great, from the back, very aerodynamic, simple shapes. I truly
Yep.
hope some of these things stay in production, like the engraved BMW badge on the hood and also on the trunk. It's a nice touch. It reduces materials, so it's a lot more sustainable from that perspective. So that's very, very cool. I don't know how expensive that is to do it in production, but I hope it stays, because that badge looks really cool that way. Inside, very spacious once again. I mean, it was a prototype, so a lot of things will change, but once again, it reminds me of the iX, spacious, minimalistic, a lot of tech. So definitely will be a lot of tech, a lot of screens. So we'll have to see that in real life, how they'll play out in a static scenario. You did the demo, it was okay. I guess you had a central display, kind of like a tablet style, a little bit angled. So that was unique compared to the curved display that we get today. But then you also have the panoramic vision in front of you, which once again works really well in a static position. I don't know when you're driving, if you're distracted or not. You can apparently remove a lot of the items on there. You can have it very minimalistic, so it's not distracting. So we'll see, because now you don't have a central display behind the steering wheel either. So essentially, you're going to have a head-up display, you're going to have the panoramic display, you're going to have that central display that will show the speed and everything else. So it will be interesting in real life when you drive the car, how that's going to play out.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think a head-up display is like an option you have to always get on the BMWs, because it's been so effective and so useful.
It's really good.
To where, yeah, I don't even. It's almost like just two displays. You have your dash and then the heads up. It's like redundant now. So getting rid of just your instrument cluster, I think, is great, because it's more in your field of view. You're not looking down as much. I've seen we posted up a video from the LA display, where like you can throw like the icons up to the panoramic one. I think it looks really cool. I think it's a good upgrade that I think will be very interesting to see how they implement with like more. I'm guessing there's probably going to be some augmented reality in there with like your your GPS, turn
Yeah.
signals and things like that, and it could be really interesting.
Yeah, they've actually showed that already in the Vision D at CES. If you watch that video, there's a lot of augmented reality and even mixed reality and even full immersion. Basically, I mean, there was a combination of everything. I don't know how many are going to survive in the production series initially, but there will be an augmented reality, maybe even mixed reality for sure in the car. I guess what I liked about the system, I guess, more than what we see today is the fact that it was quite snappy. So I guess it's the new Android system.
Okay.
Looks very refined compared to iOS, iDrive 9, operating system 9, because that one is quite laggy today in a lot of cars, and I feel like they still have a lot of work to do in it to improve it. But in this car, this new iDrive X, iDrive 10, whatever they're gonna call it, OS 10, it was just snappy. It was really easy to use, very intuitive. I like the display. I like the fact, like you said, that you can actually customize the panoramic vision by just swiping up and sending the information there. So kind of like you swipe up, let me send that information there so I can have it on the panoramic vision. I don't know if it goes into the head-up display as well or not. We couldn't test that. The other test that I want to do next time that I have a chance to play with the car, which is very soon, is really trying the haptic controls on the steering, because right now the iDrive controller, it's gone. That's going to be gone in all the cars, maybe aside from the new X3. So it's moving on to the steering wheel. So you have this kind of like a plus sign, cross shape, whatever you want to call it, essentially kind of like a Nintendo controller, or up, down, left, right, and that's going to be your iDrive controller, and it's haptic. You can swipe on it, you can swipe up and down, you can press on it, so it's got different interactions with it, and essentially that's going to serve as your iDrive controller. So if you want to scroll to things, if you want to confirm something, so on and so forth, that's what you're going to use. But like I said, I have to really test it. Some of these systems, they're not fully developed, so there are only a few things that you can actually test in it, and one of them was the you can compose your own electric sound. I don't know how many people do that, but it was quite fun to be able to compose
like your own ringtone.
Exactly, like more aggressive, and it's quite easy because you do it with your finger on the screen. You just go from a calm position to like more aggressive, and then with the accelerator you control the intensity of the sound and all of that. So it was quite interesting. It's a gimmick, but it was quite cool. So we'll see what else they have in store when it comes to that. Honestly, I'm more excited about battery and range and things like this than anything else. I'm hoping that we see a huge improvement as they've been promising. So
I'm glad to hear that they're going to have some steering wheel controls. I've never been a fan of the hand gestures, so I'm glad they're sticking with that. Because if they were saying they're shifting more to hand gestures, I never used that in the 7 Series. Just like I always had to turn it off because people talk with their hands, and it's always like doing its own thing. So good to hear that.
I also enjoy the ergonomics on that screen, so that it's kind of like I don't even know what shape it is. It's not rectangle. It just got a weird shape. And I asked them why that weird shape, because it got some cutout corners and everything else. It's not your typical tablet kind of thing, but it's nicely angled towards you. It's kind of like driver oriented, but it's also within reach. So I don't feel like sometimes in some of these cars, I feel like I need to really stretch myself to reach some of the things like on the screen, because it's so curved that they're so far, they're so spread apart. But this one being a little bit more compact and a little bit taller, I feel like it's a lot better for ergonomics, especially for shorter people. I feel like it will be a lot easier to use in terms of the UX versus the UI, basically. But once again, we'll see. And next year, probably we'll have a chance to drive the car and then get an idea on what's in production. It's still a prototype, so I can never give a final verdict until I see it in production, see what they've changed, what they have not changed, because a lot of things change.
I think it looks good. Like I said, I think it looks great. I love the clean lines. It's very minimalistic, which, I think is always a great look. It's got nice lines. BMW in the last few years has gone very aggressive in a lot of their lines. But this has I would say more elegant, more natural looking car lines. And I think it's very pleasing to the eye for just about everybody.
I can give a couple of exclusive. They didn't really confirm them, but you will have a frunk. So you will have a front trunk. I don't know how big it is. Probably not too big. I guess just enough to store maybe some grocery bags. And
that's good, because the i4 didn't. And I was kind of surprised. I pulled it open and I was like, you have the room.
I know, So this one will have it. I guess they finally listen to people that they want to have it. And I guess the other thing that you'll come with the NACS connector. So essentially, you will
Okay.
be Tesla ready, as I like to
That's
call it.
big.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they announced the transition towards that
Mhm.
for current models too. It's unclear whether they will provide an adapter or the customer will provide or get an adapter, but they will open up the network basically in 25 for all BMW EVs. But I guess the cars that come out next will probably come with that connector instead of the CCS. But we'll see. But yeah, brand new tech. Lots of interesting things with Neue Klasse. I feel like that's going to be the story the next few years. It's going to be the
Yeah.
bigger story than anything else. They're taking this very slowly as far as releasing information. So they're still, I mean, if I'm assuming 2 years before it hits the US market, maybe something like that, maybe a little bit less, but not by much. So it's still quite far out. So we will learn things as we as time pass by, and then see what other tricks they have in store for us, because we definitely want to test the driving dynamics as well at some point and see how that's
Yeah.
improved compared to what we see today. So yeah, cool things. But yeah, as I said, I'm gonna tease what's next. So with that, we can wrap up. So essentially, by the time you're watching this, I'm probably in China and Beijing
Mhm.
motor shows. I'm gonna see the new Mini Aceman. I've seen the car already, actually. So there is an embargo on it, so I have the photos. Like, quite cool, actually.
That's cool.
I'm hoping it's gonna come to the US one day. Initially, it's not. Because it's made in China. But I guess when the production moves to Oxford, then they can do that. So maybe a few years. But you will see the car on the 24th, and then we'll also see the refreshed i4. So there will be a refreshed i4 as far as the design.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
so
that. I saw you posted that up today.
just a few changes here and there. So very interesting, very fresh. I think people will like it. I wish I would have waited a little longer to get that one. And then 4 Series also, it's 4 Series Grand Coupe is getting the same facelift basically.
Okay.
So that's that. And then next month, I'm driving the M5. So that's a big one.
Nice.
And I'm driving on the racetrack too, racetrack and road. So
Guess in
it's
Portugal
actually,
again.
no, it's actually be a Salzburg ring.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it's interesting because it always rains there. So I did the M2 there and it rains. So that's going to be very cool. And also the M4CS. So I'm going to drive the M4CS there. I don't expect it to be much different than the M3CS. So I think I'll have a lot of fun with that car as well.
Such a good
And
car.
exactly. And then a bunch of other things coming up. BMW Art Car in Paris, the unveil. I'm there. So I'm going to fly over quickly just to see the car. So I think that's going to be cool because apparently the artist, she's done a fantastic job with that. So that's the car that's going to race in Le Mans. So that'll be exciting. So that's also in May. I'm going to be driving the Mini Cooper Electric as well. It's not coming to the US also initially, but I definitely want to test that car because I always love the Mini Cooper SE, the current one. And they're telling me this one, it's even more fun to drive. So that'll be exciting. What else? I'll film the X3, the unveiled one. So fully unveiled. So I have a chance to film that and then hold it until the embargo in June. So there'll be a lot of stuff around design and everything else when it comes to that. Then there is an unveil at Villa d'Este. There are a couple of, or maybe 3 BMW concepts. No, actually, there's a BMW concept. There's a BMW concept. I don't know anything about it, so I honestly don't know what to expect, which is fine because sometimes I do like surprises. So that's one. There's a motorcycle, I guess, concept, and I think Rolls-Royce has something as well. So that should be a pretty good show. But yeah, really, really busy May, honestly.
Yeah, it's looking quite busy. I know you're going to be traveling quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find my way somehow into a 5 Series touring because it's not coming to the US, of course, only the M5 touring that's been finally confirmed. But 5 Series touring is such a big product for the company, and I really want to test it because a lot of our readers and followers are not from the US.
Yep.
And they definitely drive a lot of wagons. And I'm excited to actually drive that one because every time I go to Europe, I always try to grab a wagon of some kind.
Yep.
And this
Same.
is the one that's
you have to because they're just they're all over the place. They're great. Like got to drive when you can.
Exactly. And when I have a chance to do my trunk test basically with that, because there's plenty of space in that wagon. So it should be exciting. So yeah, so I don't know, man, a lot of content in between you and I. We're also working on a Z4 M40i test drive. So hopefully it's going to work out very, very soon. I guess the cars are getting into the US right now. So we'll plan that out very soon. Hopefully we get it out in May, because I know a lot of people are waiting for that.
Yeah,
Z4
it kind of surprised me how much interest that's getting. Like I figured that'd be a very niche product, but a lot of people are asking. So, I mean, the Z4 looks great. Add in a manual with the M40i, just like, yeah, that's just such a great combo. So that'll be fun.
And we can end with this. If you guys have any suggestions for us, you can leave them on YouTube or shoot us an email at podcast@bmwblog.com or find us on social media. If you want us to test something alongside the Z4, maybe an older generation Z4 or a Z3, let us know, because they have an entire fleet of classic roasters and we can pretty much grab anything. So far I'm thinking maybe the E89, maybe Z4, but maybe an older Z3. I'm not sure. But if you guys have any suggestions, let us know, and we'll try to make it happen.
Yeah, so, that'll be a fun one, definitely. Yeah, maybe we can recreate the James Bond opening scene with the Z3.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We already have the script lined
Got it. Got it written up.
Awesome. All right. So we did an hour exactly. So that's good. Not too long, but plenty of information. We spoke a little bit faster than usual. So
yeah, covered a lot.
It's a little more condensed. Yeah. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, subscribing to our channels, and stay tuned. We'll have a lot more things coming up in the near future. See you soon.
See ya.